I'm Ron Mistretta,
I'm Aaron Mistretta.
And I'm Lauren Mistretta.
and we created
The Brook Street Pirate Ship.
Yes, sometime during the 1990s. When Halloween came around, we thought maybe we'd do something a little bit different, other than dressing them up to go out to get the candy. Why not create a little surprise on our own? So it started with a door, the front door. And how could we rig it up so that we could make something happen? Because we're a creative family. So we wanted to be able to figure out how we could make a happening of some type. So to surprise people when they come to the door. So we don't necessarily have to just give them candy and say, well, happy Halloween. Why not create something that would make it more interesting and exciting for both ourselves and the children that come? So the creaky door, we started figuring out a way to work with a skeleton.
Well, it was a pile of leaves. It was leaves that we had raked
In a garbage pail.
in a garbage pail. So
we put the skeleton in such a position.
no, in the garbage pail.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a real skeleton. It was one of those blow up
It was a
ones
blow-up
from
one.
CVS. That was
Yeah.
like $5 or whatever.
And we put it in the garbage pail, and we covered it with leaves. And then on the head of the skeleton there was like a little tab with a hole in it. And we took fishing line and we tied the skeleton head up through the little O-ring
Yeah.
that used to be for the baby swing, and we tied it to the front door so that when the front door knob, so that when we open the door, the skeleton would pop out.
And it would make a sort of a creaky sound. So we would hide behind the window in the front door and then slowly open the door when we heard the bell ring. And the creepy skeleton then started to come out. And we heard this, ah!
Kind of.
So, yeah, kind of.
I mean, you had to do it fast enough, but then it evolved, right? So we first did the skeleton. We did that. It came out of a bunch of things. It came out of a grave. It came out of whatever.
Right.
Many things, right?
Yep.
And
then we
then-
just started adding on to it.
Yeah. One
So
year
we
at a
started
time.
adding stuff inside the porch.
Right.
Maybe other gravestones or stuff, and then we eventually moved and started putting stuff in the front yard.
No, I don't think we put stuff in the front yard until we started the pirate ship.
Oh, really? We kept everything.
Yeah.
on
I think
the
we
porch?
put the porch was the
It was
the
all
thing.
on the porch.
It was the place because they would come up 3 steps and then he would enter the porch. And so the porch went on to be almost the most sophisticated part as things grew, because it became an important element of the experience of coming to 59 Brook Street for Halloween.
So then fast forward
So then fast
to
forward.
the early 2000s, right?
Yes, I was working at the JFK Museum, and I was able to acquire some staging.
Yes.
And so I brought the staging home,
And
and then I went to my son and I said, okay, now we'll set this up this way. So how could we create a boat?
well, because you loved Pirates of the Caribbean used to be like your favorite ride at Disney World.
Absolutely. That's
Like-
that was the main
Inspiration.
inspiration for me, because I thought that's what we would do.
And then I feel like the Johnny Depp movies were coming out, and it was just like, forget about it. Like something has to
Everybody
happen.
was into it.
Yeah, it was like a big deal.
So we tried to figure out how we were gonna. We came to the decision that we wanted to make
A
a
pirate
pirate
ship,
ship, and
yeah.
we were trying to figure out how we could do that. So I figured out if we put the staging like a T, we could get
The shape.
we could get the shape of the boat just by going to Home Depot, and we bought
Well, that was the best hack. Was that paneling, that
Right.
like faux wood paneling?
the faux wood
from
paneling
Home
that you
Depot.
see in like the 80s houses.
It looks like
we just took
was the
2
best.
of those boards and
Attached them
together at a corner.
And ran them
On
around
hinges.
the
Yeah, on
staging.
hinges, and we cut it kind of like the shape of a boat, so that became like the front.
the hull.
Yeah, the whole of the pirate ship.
Yeah. And I think originally, what was the first animatronic that you made?
Well, go back a little bit.
Okay.
Because now we're still creating a ship. Okay.
Right,
So
okay, sorry.
What do we need to have on the ship? Well, we
sail.
need to have a sail. Okay, and we need to have a
Oh,
post
my
for the
God.
sail.
The
Okay?
mast.
The mast. Okay.
I was
How
always
high
the
do
one
we-
that put up the
now,
mast.
we have a room on the third floor.
No, it was the second
Second
floor. It was
floor.
outside
Second
Aaron's
floor?
room,
Yeah.
where there's this like
Right.
so
It goes over the porch.
the roof that goes over the porch. Aaron's window in his bedroom was like open right onto the top of this porch.
In order
roof.
to make the mast stable.
I got to climb out on the roof of the porch, and
So you needed the duct tape.
yeah,
It was a tall mast.
it was a big
just a big,
PVC
huge PVC pipe,
pipe.
probably at least 15 feet, maybe even 20 feet, but
and
at least
then
15.
there was a base on the staging that like was screwed in, but then it would get hoisted up, and then we had to like duct tape
You had
it
to duct tape it
to the
to the-
gutters
to the gutter
to the
of the
gutters
roof.
on the thing, and then we put a piece of wood across it, like we cut out a notch to hold the piece of wood, and then the flag would
was a
drape
structure.
the like
The sail
red
was
flag with
attached
the
to that.
So we had to dirty the sheet to make it look like.
well, there was the
aged.
pirate flag, and then there was the dirty sheet underneath. That
And
was
then we
like-
got a smaller.
On top, we had a basket.
Yeah,
Oh,
we got a
that's
basket
gross.
with a little tiny skeleton in it.
That was just
like
a trash
the lookout.
can. It was a trash
Yeah, it was
can.
like a tiny
that
little
was like
trash can.
cut off with the
Yeah.
little guy, and he was like hanging on the outside, like
Right.
Right.
waving.
Right. Okay.
Oh my god!
So we got basically the structure, and then I looked all over for props.
Well,
So
where'd you
what
get the
did-
wheel from?
Well, I found the wheel somewhere on the Cape, I think.
Yeah.
On one of the stores, and I bought the wheel, and then I sort of built the wheel, and then I said, what else do we need? We need a cannon. So I
I
started
didn't
with
have the cannon in the first. I think you did the cannon later. Like
well, it may be
It was
we're gonna
still fairly early.
progress to that. So I'm just talking about objects that
Yeah.
we needed to put.
the cannon, that took you like a long time.
Yes, it took me a long time to do the cannon. Started out with a piece of PVC pipe and then plaster, and then building the sides.
It was
And,
all foam.
Yeah,
okay,
wasn't it like foam? Wasn't it like graduated foam core that was
It was
like?
just like the pink insulation
It
foam.
was thick foam core.
right.
That, and I had to make wheels for it. And then I said, well, we got to have this
smoke.
cannon do something. So I tried a couple of things. I think I tried sparklers first.
Oh my
And then I
God.
said, that's not going to work. And then those New Year's Eve things where you turn the and
Oh, yeah,
confetti
poppers.
comes out. That's not going to work. So I said, the only thing that will work is smoke. So get a smoke machine. And so we got that, and now the cannon was able to smoke periodically once the fluid was heated up.
Do we have a strobe light in it too, or something?
We did have a strobe
Yes,
light
yeah,
somewhere
put a strobe light
on
in
the
it.
front. But wait, I think the first animatronic that you did was the guy in the cabin who pulled his torso apart from his legs. He was like
Oh, and the guy in the
shackled.
jail?
He
Yeah.
was like hanging in a jail cell,
Yep.
shackled, and he was pulling his torso apart from his legs. So his
Right.
legs were like
His legs were stationary.
his like pelvis and
Yeah.
his legs were like attached to the back of this little cell.
Yep.
And he was hanging from the center, and you had some kind of
Well, like I said, the porch was the first part of building the experience. We sort of knew the boat was there, but what were we going to do with the porch?
in the
So
cabin
the
of
porch
the ship.
was set up like you were entering the inside of the ship. So we got some trunks
Yeah.
and we filled them with all kinds
Pirate's
of
booty.
pirate booty,
gold and rings. And,
paraphernalia. I had a
oh, everything from Oriental trading.
I had a parrot,
That was my parrot. That was from that was Squawkers.
squawkers,
Because I worked at Hasbro, and it was one of the toys I worked on.
and we had a parrot that talked, and we had this guy who was sort of hanging himself up and down, and so we had a number of things on the porch, but
Yeah, that
a
was-
lot of ropes, and I made sure the lighting was kind of interesting too. So I put lights up,
Oh yeah.
but then I put crepe paper
Yeah.
under the lights, so you really couldn't see the lights directly.
They were like
They
orange
just came
Christmas
through as
lights.
an orange crepe lights that
And we had a bunch of stage lights too that we used
Yeah, the
filters
cell- the
on and
cells.
stuff. Yeah, cells.
Well,
So-
and then you
To cover
then
them.
you built a guy. Oh no, was he on the front or was he in there? The guy that was spinning the torso in the
He
barrel.
came later.
He was on the front.
So the first part, when we first started to do it, it was pretty much static. It wasn't much of anything moving. It was just there.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, we got to go.
This is so boring.
we
Yeah, it's just a
We got to step
pirate
this
ship.
up somehow, you know? I mean, we had sounds.
Oh, just spooky sounds.
We had
just
spooky
had like a spooky
sounds going
tape.
on.
It was a
But
tape.
everything was static. We had lights and stuff, but it just didn't seem to, it had to come alive. It had to be worth, doing something a little bit more. So I studied a little bit and I looked on the internet about different machines and different possibilities. And I found there's a lot of amateurs out there who would do this every year, who would create these things from simple things like windshield wiper motors. So I bought a number of windshield wiper motors, which basically worked off different batteries and things. And I worked out linkage so I could try and take a pirate body, okay, and linkage it up in such a way so that it would move. So I did my first one. It was a pirate who just went like this back and forth. And I asked Lauren, I said, okay, you work for Hasbro. This is my linkage. Take a picture of it and give it to my daughter to see, if her engineers at Hasbro could come up with anything a little bit different.
Yeah, because I was working on animatronic plush, and this is what the guys did, like CAD. I don't even know what it was, but Don Cameron, thank you.
Well, it seemed that I was on the right track. All I had to do, because you have this windshield wiper motor that it just basically turns.
You'll just go back and forth.
Yeah.
It goes back and forth, but if you put linkage on correctly, pieces of metal, and attach them to other pieces of metal, you could
Changes the way
get
it
you
moves.
could get a change of movement in sort of these different creatures.
So you think the first one that we did was the guy with the sword going
First
just like
one,
this?
Captain.
the first one of
The
mine
captain.
did was the captain. Then
Okay.
I figured out how to do the pirate wheel, because the pirate wheel had to
Right.
move.
'Cause,
So we
yeah.
put the hands on the wheel, and I had it hooked up to a windshield wiper motor, which actually made the wheel move. But it appeared that
That he
the
was actually
captain
turning it.
was actually turning.
Well, that was a different guy, right?
Turn-
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So the first guy was just the guy with
the sword.
with the sword that was going like this, and he was like the first mate. He was like next to the captain, and then
right.
the wheel, the mechanism that turned the wheel was nice because in combination with however old that wheel was, it was like really herky jerky movement that kind of made it like creepier.
Yeah.
And so he was like driving the boat, and it actually, even though it was just the wheel that was moving his hands, it actually animated his whole body.
Right.
Because he was pretty stiff, and so any movement of the arms kind of created this
Yep.
whole body movement for him.
Okay, so what was the next thing
The guy pulling his body apart in the cabin
on the porch?
on the porch. But then, wait, when are we going to talk about Millie?
We'll get to her. So now, jumping to the next sophistication.
We
This
did that
pirate, how do we make this pirate talk?
Oh, yeah.
How do we make the mouth move? How do we make the eyes light up? And I said, I got to figure out something like that. So I think I bought a little kit which allowed me to record something and put it, what do you call it?
It was just
Our master mateys.
Yeah, it was just a little speaker
Don't
system.
you be
Yeah.
scared now.
Right. So my friend Phil had a great voice for that.
Come along and what did he say?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Avast your mateys.
Yeah. Come on the pirate ship with me. I can't remember. We listened
So-
to it a million times a day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it was,
So we got all that working. I mean, and everything was timed differently.
yeah.
So that not all these things would happen at the same time. So the pirate could be moving this, and the other guy with the sword, he could be just standing still until the pirate stopped talking, and then he would just move again. So
Yeah.
each one, the timing was an electronic timer. So each of these props was on an electronic timer, so
But
they wouldn't all go.
It made
Now-
it so it was very dynamic though, so that like you could come up and like watch it, and
Right.
it would like keep you engaged because there was like a lot
Not
of
everything.
stuff. Yeah.
Everything was timed out to happen at.
It was all lots of
So it
things
was
were
like
happening.
everything
Right.
happened at once, and then it was over.
Now, there are certainly more sophisticated systems out there that work with a computer console. And so I didn't want to go that far. I just said, well, let's see how much I could do with I'm not a
Windshield
computer
wiper
wizard,
covers.
but just with my little mechanisms here and trying to get these things to work. And as I went on, I started thinking, okay, so every year let's try and develop a new prop
Just add
and see
something
what
on.
happens.
So-
So I made one guy who was on top of a barrel, and he would just spin around.
His torso.
Yeah,
It was
he would
just
just-
the top. It was like
yeah.
his ribs.
He would just spin, and he would just spin, and he would just spin.
Can I just interrupt for a second? Because
Yeah.
the funniest thing was that prior to Halloween, so all of this stuff was stored in our basement on Brook Street. And prior to Halloween, starting on what you said, October
October
1st, my dad would start bringing all of these things up from the basement, and he would position them all in the living room like they were having tea or something. So, like, depending on when you came to the house, or like if you were downstairs at night and you looked out of the corner of your eye, I was like, oh my God, what are all those people? And it was a room full of these skeletons getting ready for Halloween. But yeah, so each year you would add a new prop.
Right. At first, my wife was a little bit taken by all of this, but I think she got used to it
She
for
got
a
on
while.
board.
Well, the issue was that we would never put anything out other than the staging itself.
Oh.
We would never put anything out before
The day of.
the day of Halloween.
It was, and we would, and that was what was something that was really special about it for me is like every year we would, because by the time we were doing the pirate ship, it was like, at least 2005. And so Aaron and I would take the day off from work, you would take the day off from work, and we would all meet at the house by like 7 a.m. and just get it done
yeah.
in one day. We would get like sandwiches from the spa for lunch, and it was just like this tradition that we had. It was like, it was really cool. And we would be done, like the kids would see us on their way to school and they'd be like, oh my God. And then on their way home from school, usually we finished around like 2 or 3 o'clock, depending.
Right.
And it was so cool.
Well,
it was so fun.
There were some other things that I thought of too. I said to myself, what about bats?
And the bats.
The bats we had been doing for
the
a
bats,
while.
Yeah, the bats were like one of the original things, like with the guy coming out of the leaves. We
Right.
had these bats that you hang
From whatever.
And
Yeah,
their
whatever.
wings would flap,
and
and they
they
would
just turn
actually
around
fly.
fly
and
around in circles,
fly in
and they
circles.
got
And-
people were always like, "Oh my gosh, the bats!"
Yeah.
We would hang them like
Because
just
some of
low
them,
enough.
their eyes would glow
Yeah.
red.
Oh my god, they
And
were
we
the
hung
best.
them from the trees.
They were really simple, but it was like, it was
They were a big hit,
a lot of bang for the buck.
you
on
know.
that one.
And some had light up eyes,
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
red
yeah.
eyes.
and that flew around, which added to everything too.
And then we decided to expand beyond the pirate ship, and I came up with the idea of how to do the water, which was a brilliant idea. Thank you. You're welcome. And we put
Lights.
Christmas lights down on the garden, which was like to the left, well, to the right if you were facing the house, to the right of the boat. And we just put blue tarps over it. And during the day, it looked dumb. But at night, it like really came
It looks
alive.
exactly
and looked,
like
Yeah.
water.
It was very cool.
Yeah. And
Like
then we had the
Caribbean
light
water.
too. We had a light, like a light machine.
Oh yeah, that a special
made it-
effects light machine
that made it look like
ripply.
waves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was
So
super
now
cool.
we got this water. I had to come up with props. So one of the first guys I created was what I called the swimmer.
Was that? I think Millie was first.
The swimmer was first. The
Okay.
swimmer was an animatronic whose arms just went like this. So I would be able to create linkage so it looked like he was swimming in the water. And again, it was
It's-
timed periodically.
Swimming is a relative term. He's more like kind of drowning.
Yeah,
And
he was-
the audio that we had with that for the best. He was just screaming,
Screaming.
like he's just screaming in the water.
Especially because we added the alligators.
Oh, the
Oh, yeah.
alligators were there. But no, can we talk about Millie?
Yes.
Okay, Millie was a labor of love for you. She was probably the biggest one, don't you think?
Millie was the most challenging
Millie the sea
animatronic.
monster.
And I just found somewhere
The
where
tentacles.
they were producing these tentacles.
Were they like 8
It
feet
was
or
like,
something?
Yeah.
like, you know,
But you only bought. They
Two.
only had like 2, right?
Right.
So you had to
We
recreate
had to, like,
a couple
make,
other ones.
Yeah, we had to like make matching, which was
so you know
Up
those
close
the
they
swimming
weren't.
pool doodles. That's
the pool noodles.
So I was able to start with that and then build onto that
Oh my God.
to make this 4 tentacle.
Yeah, you could
Right.
only see 4, but there were more underwater. No, but the head was like
It was-
this.
the
It
head
was
was huge.
foam. It was like
A big foam head with eyes, and I used
It was probably
that-
like 2 to 3 feet.
it was
wide.
big.
It was big.
It was big.
and I used that stuff.
The
that
spray
they-
foam, like spray foam insulation.
It was like great stuff.
I don't
That
know.
was the name of the
That's
the product
yeah.
that you use for insulation.
Yeah.
And it created a texture
It was like
all around
ripply.
Millie. So
great.
Millie was needed at least 4 windshield wiper motors working at different times.
Well, because those tentacles were really heavy, right? So it
Right.
took the right. It took a long time to get because they were like kind of flailing. Some of them didn't move, but like
And it would activate the other moves, and they
Oh
would
my
move
God.
sort of
So we
up
put
and
it-
down.
it was the best.
We put it
She was
in the
best.
water, like coming out of like above the tarp. Where
Yeah,
the lights
yeah.
were, and the tentacles were going up and like hitting against the boat.
It was like
the side of the
20,000
boat.
Leagues Under the Sea. Remember that movie? That
and the swimmer, the guy,
Yeah,
he
and
was trying to
the
escape,
swimmer,
and he
right.
was screaming.
Yeah, between
As
the
you would.
alligators and
It's terrifying.
Millie, yeah.
Terrifying.
So there were a lot of these things happening all at once, and all of a sudden, this thing that started out with a couple of static pirates was actually taking on a life of its own. It was becoming a show,
Yeah.
and people who came would just stay there and watch it.
Well, we didn't used to close the street. Like it used to be just like whatever.
right. Even before what we were doing was a big hit. Even before the pirate ship. So, but even before the pirate ship, we had stuff. I think we had stuff in the front yard
don't remember.
before the pirate ship, and just because of the amount of stuff, we were getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. By the time of the pirate ship, it was 1,000,
It was over
literally 1,000
Before-
kids.
yeah,
and we know that
but we-
because
but we
Before
had-
the pirate ship, this guy came up with an idea. The idea was to create a giant spider.
That's
yeah.
right. That is. We did have a huge spider. On
Yeah,
the house.
so
okay, so that was before.
That was before the pirate ship.
Yeah, yeah.
One year I took a big, it was a big garbage can,
With-
and I went to Joann Fabrics or whatever, and I got like the black hairy
Yeah, I remember
fabric,
that now.
and I just put it on top, and then I got PVC pipes, and I made these huge legs.
Yeah.
And I had it. We went up and we put it on the roof,
Or just like hanging
of
over
the porch,
roof.
like hanging over and like
Yeah.
looking up. We didn't have any animatronics in
No,
that,
no,
but
no,
that was like.
That was probably like 2002
Yeah.
or something like. But
Right
but so
before Pirate
at a certain point we started getting the street closed because I remember
The
that
crowds was
the
so-
crowds were getting really big and it was kind of scary because there were like
There
a
were
lot of
cars
little kids and the
trying to get
cars and
through.
it was
It just
bad.
made it so much easier to close the street.
Yeah, so we
And the police by that time were well aware.
oh my god,
of
they
what
would
was
they
going
would
on.
drive by and they'd be like
Yeah, they'd
"Hey,
drive by in the
guys."
day and be like, "Oh, I can't wait for it." Whatever.
Yeah, and people bust their kids in from like Boston, from like all other
As
neighborhoods.
times
It was-
went on, each year the crowds got larger
We counted.
and larger.
So we used to give out like real candy, but then it was so expensive, and I
Yeah.
think my mom was
We
like,
had to monetarily figure out what was the best bang for your buck, like the cheapest candy, and it turned out it was Twizzlers.
Twizzlers. My mom was like the queen, so she would go to Costco, get a ton of Twizzlers, and that's how we counted, and that's how
Because we
we
would give
knew
away one.
that we
one Twizzler to
we
each
were
kid.
like, and also I do believe that we were like no costume, no candy. Some years, or it depended who was at the door, but because we had different jobs. Like a lot of time when it got really intense, I was on crowd control, and I would be standing in the middle of the steps. Directing one
Which way was
path
up,
of
and then
traffic
which way was
up
down.
the stairs, and then the other path of traffic down behind me,
Right. Mm-hmm.
like a traffic cone, because people would like get stuck on the porch.
There was so much stuff to look at that would just stay up there.
And
for
some
way
kids
too
were like
long.
frozen in fear or in like fascination, and they would like never go down. And their parents were like, "What happened to my kid?" And we're like, "We're not taking them
You took my
inside."
kid,
like
yeah.
we never let them come in the house. But so we counted with the Twizzlers, and I think we got up over 1,500 for
yes.
sure.
It's not counting them.
And I think like we had a lot of people who were like, I used to be afraid to walk by your house, but
It was a
like,
rite of passage for some kids,
Yeah.
even to take a first step up to the porch. And I remember talking to one kid one day. He says, I'm so proud of myself that I actually made it to the front porch this year because I'm not scared anymore.
It's so cute. We would be like, it's all pretend to the little kids. We were like,
Yeah.
no. My mom was a preschool teacher, so we were like very used to, and her kids from her class would come, and but they were still. I mean, some of them thought it was hysterical, but some of them got really, really scared. And at night,
They
it could
wouldn't
be really
Yeah,
scary.
they wouldn't even come near the porch.
Oh my god, yeah. But yeah, and then there was the year of the hurricane where you tried to cancel it, and I stood up on my soapbox and I was like, "The ship has to sail." You were gonna put up a
Right,
a sign
a big
that was
sign
like,
that's like, yeah.
the due to the weather, like
Yeah.
some
Ship
kind of
couldn't make it
pirate
into
theme.
port.
Yeah,
Right.
and I was just like,
But it was
no!
fine. We never had bad weather that caused us not to do it, which
There
was
was
amazing.
Sometimes rain came late. I remember there was one year where it started raining, and Esther and Lee across the street, Lee had a bunch of his graduate students, and they came and helped us deconstruct it like really fast.
Right.
Because the rain started to come. Because we would set it up that day, and then we would take it all down that night. I mean, we would just bring it inside, but
it
9
was-
o'clock, we were done. And it was like...
that was the magic thing about it, is that if you didn't catch it when it was being premiered,
It was one night.
One
Because
night only.
One night only.
the next day,
It was gone.
nothing was there.
Yeah.
So people would come by the next day and they said, "I wanted to see the pirate ship." What I just told them, it just sailed off.
Sailed off into the living room.
down into the basement.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the magical thing about it. And I was fortunate enough to have neighbors across the street, Lee and Esther, who had their lab assistants there
Yeah.
at one time
Yeah.
and helped me put the thing back. So it
Super
took
fast.
about a week to get everything sort of back into place again.
In the basement.
Yeah, little by little until the next year, and then the thoughts came to my head and said, "Okay,
Well, you would start designing the next. You would start designing. I mean, I feel like that Cannon and Millie, you were almost working them on
In the
them like
summer.
the whole, like almost like the whole year. I feel
Yeah.
like.
there would always be another prop for the next year."
But that was the other thing, is that when we started, nobody else was doing
Yeah.
anything like that. So
The street
people
kind
were
of-
people were giving out candy, but we were the ones that
Started
like any kind of show or anything like that, and
The
then
street came up around it, which was really nice. Like the other neighbors.
The other
kinda got
neighbors
into it.
started doing stuff as
started
well.
doing stuff
Nothing to
to
the level
join
that
in,
we
which
did,
But
but
it became like, I mean, it was like,
they
a block
felt bad
party.
because they kind of had to, because it's like, oh, you guys are the
Well,
only ones that do something. on
that's
this
why
street.
when you were selling the house, I was like, just need to warn you.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of expectation that comes with it. And the people who bought the house are like, we're not doing anything. But like, I mean, there was a lot of expectation.
You're gonna get 1,500 kids here. Be ready.
Yeah.
Go to BJ's and buy 2,000 Twizzlers.
So we would tell,
And all the neighbors would want to shut down like way before us. So like Esther and Lee or Michael and Ellen or whoever, they were like, okay, we're done. Here's our candy. You guys hand out the rest of it.
Yeah.
So usually the time started before it got dark. We were absolutely ready to go, and so some of the younger kids came around first, the really small ones. So they were able, but the real action got
was
really going about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 7:30.
By 9 o'clock, it was pretty much over. So we're talking about a show that
A couple hours.
just a few hours.
But it was intense, man. Like
But
in that,
But yet, in that time, I thought it was, and I looked at some of the kids, and the way they were looking at it, it was like for some of them, it was like for some kids who were never able to go to Disney World for whatever reason, this was their Disney World.
And that's how busy it would get.
It was so
That's why we had to close the street down, because
Yeah.
it would literally be Main Street Disney World. You can barely walk, even out in the street. That's how many
That's
people
crazy.
there were there.
That's crazy.
So people came from all over. People would bust in, and it was on the internet, and I saw it on the internet, so now I'm going to come. So come the day and I was trying to figure out what's the next step. And the next step I talked to my neighbor about. I said, I really want to move to the next step, and what would the next step be? And he actually offered to give me money to step it up to the next step.
The
Trying
pirate
to
ship?
figure out,
Like evolve it.
Yes, in some way. And what I thought about is being able to actually put on, it didn't happen, but if it happened, it would have been a show.
We talked about going across the street.
Yeah, having
remember?
like
a zip line or something. I mean,
Well, there was a
whatever.
zip line we were talking about. Oh, if you guys do another pirate ship, we could have like a cannon battle, like going back and forth.
actually put on a show where they would be real actors and get involved, work with the animatronics in some way, and be out on the street doing something, But it really never got to that point because I was at the end, and I knew we were going to move. So it came to being, well, this will probably be the last year. So we made up posters and we told people about it, and they realized it was the last year, and we got cards from kids who made up cards saying we'll miss the pirate ship, and Glenn and so many people came up and said.
So what was what
I think
year was the last year?
It was really
Well, they moved in January of 2019, so the last year.
It
would
was
have been
really
2018.
rewarding to have even the parents come up and say,
Yeah.
you've been such a staple here for us. This has been fantastic that we knew that we could come and our kids could be safe.
Well, what
on
was
this street
funny was
watching this.
I found out I would be talking to random people, and I found out there was like urban legend about you. They were like, "Oh yeah, we heard about that guy from DreamWorks."
There's this like pirate ship on.
Yeah, this
Like
guy
Brook
who
Street,
works for
Disney or
he
DreamWorks.
worked for George Lucas.
No,
all of these
that's my
rumors
dad.
going around.
Yeah.
No, he works at the JFK library. Actually.
No, I mean it was like when I would tell people, it was one of my like 2 truths and a lie, or when I would introduce myself at like icebreakers and stuff. I was like, oh, and I have this pirate ship at my house, and there was usually somebody who would be like, oh my God, you were from the pirate ship house. Like it just became a thing that people knew about. And
So
was
what
cool.
was the future? The future was with Brookline. The future was, what do I do with this? I went to the Brookline Recreation
Recreation.
Department. They said, oh, well, it sounds really interesting. They sent a couple of people over, and they were so overwhelmed with what they saw. They said, we can't handle this.
well, I mean, it's very complex. It's not like a thing where you just like push a button.
Right. Everything
All
was-
of these
everything was separate
mechanisms
and kinda-
needed maintenance like every year. That when you would bring the guys up from the basement, but then it was like tinkering to make sure that all of the mechanisms were
I
working.
really
so
wanted
it
to
wasn't
leave
like,
it to Brookline, and I said, I would be involved. I'd love to teach animatronics at the high school, and maybe let this work out, and maybe you guys at the recreation could find a storage place for all of this stuff, and I could start doing and pass the knowledge on to somebody else. And they were like, it was like so overwhelming for them.
It's too
They
much.
just couldn't imagine. They just didn't have the vision that. And I said to myself, I guess there aren't that many people who have maybe the kind of vision that my family had to be able to make this happen.
or
you
just they didn't have the resources.
Right.
I think that
That's
like
probably
they
more
used
like
to
it.
run this like haunted hayride, and they were like, we don't even really have that. We can't even do that anymore, and that's like a hayride at the golf course.
Yeah.
So it's
So
like,
I said, where do I go now? So I put some stuff on the internet, and I had some professional companies asking me about it. But my thought was, pass it on to a nonprofit that would have kids involved in making these things. So I finally found this guy from the,
it was a Boys and Girls Club, right?
no, it was the
In Andover, I thought.
Andover, the school in Andover. He said,
Oh.
we have a group of kids, the guy said, that have a Halloween extravaganza every year, and we do it inside. And I said, well, that's perfect. So I said, if you're interested, it's yours.
Come and get it.
Come and get it. So they did. They sent a bus, a truck, another truck, and they basically took it all away.
That's when the ship really sailed away.
Yeah.
And that's when the ship really.
Went to Andover.
Now, whatever happened,
Via
I
95.
really don't know. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should have kept a couple of those things just
Well,
in
we kept
case.
squawkers. I
That's
have it
true.
upstairs.
But and I started to realize, I don't know if people really know what they're getting into when they get this thing, because this is built over a period of years to build and to be able to work on it and
Maintain it.
and stuff. And so I sort of had my doubts that this would really ever continue in some ways if I wasn't involved in it, So I never knew what happened once it went to Andover.
It was great though.
But-
It was fun. My kids we moved to South Brookline, and they would come and we would trick or treat on Brook Street until they like started making friends in this neighborhood, like when they
Right.
went to kindergarten and stuff. And then they would come here to do trick or treating here, but I was working the pirate ship
Yeah, for the longest time, we just brought them
to Brook Street.
to Brook Street because
Yeah.
that's
That was where it was.
nothing compared to it. So
Yeah.
that
So
was
for
the place
years,
to be.
people talked about it. Even afterwards, people came the next year to see if it was still there, and it wasn't. And they were very, very disappointed. These are the stories we heard from our neighbors, and they said
That are still there.
it'll
Yeah.
never be the same as it was.
It was fun. That's the story. Right?
Yep,
Yeah,
that's the story of the pirate ship.
that's the story.